I was on the ballroom dance team with Ben DeHoyas, who taught that, and they asked me at BYU, "You're good. You're not great, but you're good enough to go and teach." And I did teach social dance and Latin American dance up in the Wilkinson Center, just to the right of the elevator there. And I used my wife back in those days, Janice. She assisted me with teaching, and my second wife, Janet. I do good with the J's. Janet was there too, and she was my dance partner there. So he screwed on that one point. Now you got to realize in court systems, generally one even mistake is generally not fatal. There's a lot of complexities that interact and overlap, and there's just a lot of that kind of bullshit in a federal and whatever other courts, even in school districts. So anyway, my memorandum, second, is called supplemental memorandum, is going back to the PACER system and to the court, and my assistants will help file it and whatever. And so there's one thing there that I have been an employee of the Mormon Church. Now, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. I went to the records of the employment department of BYU, and I said, "Oh, by the way, I worked there 50 years ago. Do you have record of that?" I talked to 2 departments. No record. Now, should I believe them? They lie, they lie, they lie. It could have been red flagged. When I gave them my name, the first phone call, they were able to pull my name up, but because of my transcripts and my degree, that may have been computer generated. So anyway, I talked to 2 departments, and they go, "No, you never existed." I said, do you have any record of Brigham Young ever being there? No, just making that shit up. So that was a closed door, closed window, and Jordan can laugh his ass off, saying David can say he was an employee, but he can't prove. And in this court, the measure of proof is a preponderance of the evidence. It's a much lower standard to win than a criminal case. A criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt, and boy, that's 99%. You better be right, or you're going to go to jail. So with the preponderance of evidence, you only have to have 51% belief by the judge that David did work for BYU. So I was screwed there. I couldn't get it. Well, then I called the church office building, and I know my phone numbers. I have other people use their cell phones to call the church, because the church doesn't block and doesn't red flag other people's numbers yet. And I have so many cell phones. I don't know if they have all the numbers. But anyway, I called the Mormon Church today at 50 East Temple in Salt Lake City, and they were courteous to me. And I said, "Gee, I would really like to talk to the records department and employment, HR." "Oh, okay." So they put me through to HR. And there was a nice lady there, but I just had a feeling that when she pulled her computer up, it said, "This guy is fucking us in a lawsuit. Give him the finger." I can't prove that. All I can do is say I'm 80 years old. I know a lot about human beings. And her voice, her inflection, her tone kind of tipped towards, "We know who the hell you are." And I said, "Well, do you have any records from BYU that I work for the church?" No, we don't have those. They're too old. They're 50 years old. We don't have that. Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to apologize if I'm wrong, because I'm not afraid to be wrong. That's how I learn. I think they're lying. I think the Mormon Church saves every record. They have every journal of Joseph Smith. They have every record of the name of the Carthage jail jailer. They have every name of everybody who ever worked at BYU, what their job was, what their social security number was, whether any disciplinary. So I think they're lying. I can partially prove it here in a minute. So they're saying, no, you never worked here. And that supports David Jordan's statement. You never worked for the church. We don't have any record. And I thought BYU would push their records to the church office building, but they're denying that. And they said, you didn't work for the church. You worked for BYU. And yeah, the top 15 are the board of directors of BYU, but it's not a church. I go, yes, it is. They just have the greatest insanity of trying to circle the wagons when they're in trouble. So anyway, that was kind of dead end. Well, when you send this video over to David, he's going to go, oh, good. He says he worked for the church, but the judge always believes the Mormon prosecutor. So David doesn't work for the Mormon church, and Section 1 of ADA does not apply. Well, what I did, and again, it's not what I do. Let me make this really, really clear. I get what my patriarchal blessing. I hear the voice of the Holy Ghost. I get direct revelation. I'm sitting in my chair, and there's words and there's phrases I never was educated in. I don't know what a preliminary summary judgment is. I don't know these things, but the words come to me. Then I go on to AI. I put on AI emotion in lemony. I go, what the fuck is that emotion in lemony? Well, David here. Quiet little voice, still small voice. So I'm sitting in my chair feeling really discouraged and down because I know I worked for BYU. I know I got paychecks from BYU, and I can't prove it. So I can't disavow David Jordan's statement to the court. I can't prove that he lied and that there's a problem with his candor, that he doesn't do his homework. Well, I sat there, and that little voice comes to me and said, David, if you work for BYU and you've been honest all your years, you've always declared your taxes, haven't you? I go, yeah. I said, well, what about the Social Security Administration? Did they take anything out of your paycheck at BYU that there's a record of? God dang, I don't know. And I said, well, little voice, check it out. Okay, I'm going to check it out. So I called Social Security, and it's satanic. All this shit around me, machines are totally controlled by, the unseen part of the existence. I was on the phone for an hour before they answered, and they kept saying, well, do you want us to call you back? I go, no. I'll hold. So I held for an hour. And I talked to a very nice lady, finally, at Social Security. And I told her my problem. I said, I've got a 50-year-old Social Security deduction. When I work for BYU, that information will be on that form. How much money did the BYU pay you? And then they took out, $87 or whatever. There it is. Jordan is fucked. So I said, well, what can we do? And she said, David, I don't know if we can go back that far. This is so unusual. I think you're fucked. I said, well, there's a little small voice in me that said, would you mind checking and seeing if there's any way that Social Security has an archives or some type of a system where I could go back and get tax forms that show that Brigham Young University was listed on an official tax form as employment. She says, Ali, I'm looking in here, and I've never seen this shit before. But yeah, there's a damn form. I said, really? I said, tell me about the form. Anyway, I'm not going to give you the details. So they're sending that form to me. I have to pay $30, $35, but they're going to be able to pull those old records up, and I'm going to be able to attach them to my memorandum going, David's got his head up his ass. He didn't, do his homework, and he's lied to the court. But the court in Salt Lake, they're not going to care. But I care. And you know what? My legal advisor, he cares. He cares. So anyway, I sat back in the chair and thought, God, maybe I'm gonna, save this after all. Social Security looks like they're going to be able to come up with that BYU employment. Well, I'm sitting there, and then this little small voice comes back and says, David, it never says, David, you're an ass. It should. It should. When Jesus, he hasn't appeared to me, but I do hear that inflection. He sometimes will say, don't let your big brass balls get in your way. Don't trip over them. But anyway, I'm sitting there, and that little inspiration comes back and said, David, if the Social Security Administration has that documentation, why don't you go to the IRS? I go, God, I never thought about that. I'll go to so I called the IRS. I got the nicest lady on the phone, and she said the same thing. David, this is extremely unusual for keeping tax records, but we may have it on microfiche, or we may have it in archives, and we have a form here. You've got a form too? She said, yeah, it's going to be some cost. It's going to be $35. I said, okay. I said Social Security is only $30, but $5 in what I'm doing doesn't matter. So she says, I'll send you the form. So anyway, they're on my AI and they're in my email. I have to fill them out. I have to take a look at them and put the money with them. Go. But if I can get just one official government form, I'm in. If I get two, it's unbelievable. But so if I can get IRS and I can get Social Security, that's going to be wonderful. So that's one section when his memorandum said he's not an employee and he's never been an employee. Well, that's a lie. And the court is going to look at that and say, as far as candor, that's not true. He's proved it. It's attached to the form. He worked for BYU. Okay, now the second part of his memorandum talks about public accommodation. Now, does ADA and reasonable accommodation reflect upon public accommodation? And the answer is yes. Anything that is public, you can ask for a reasonable accommodation. Well, he's arguing, and he's wrong, that all of these child molestation cases, and David Jordan handles a big section of that part of the Mormon Church, millions, billions of dollars probably in defense and payoffs. They pay off $300, $500, $1 million to these children who they molested. And it's not enough money. But anyway, the third part is he's saying that this does not apply to the Mormon Church. We're exempt from reasonable accommodation. Again, he doesn't do his homework. He's shooting from the hip. I definitely put in with my case law, and I try to keep my case law to 10, 15 cases. If you put 30, 40 case laws in there, the judge is going to go, shit. He's not going to look at all that. But anyway, ADA, if it has to do with religion, practices, and procedures, you're fucked. First Amendment is going to stop you dead. That's why Huntsman could not get his money back. That's why the other people that have sued the Mormon Church in a group, they have a class action suit. They're going to lose. I don't kill the messenger. Don't kill the messenger. But they're going to lose because the First Amendment allows religious organizations to lie, cheat, steal, manipulate. They can do whatever they want. And there's nothing that anybody with the law can do about it. They're exempt. They're exempt. And that's why the Mormon Church wins and wins and wins because they're exempt. But what David Jordan doesn't understand is that my lawsuit is on policies, procedures, and administration. It has nothing to do with worship, has nothing to do with time periods that people go to church, nothing to do with the endowment, nothing to do with all the things that the Mormon Church fucks the public on. It has to do with them simply erasing my name out of the records. Well, he's, again, ignorant. He hasn't done his homework. He may win because he's with a Salt Lake judge and nobody will know. People, there's only one person that needs to know what I'm doing. But I'm certainly not going to get accolades and trophies and plaques on the wall and whatever. But basically, the Mormon Church is not exempt by the First Amendment on administration, policies, and procedures. Okay, so that part of his motion is going in the shitter too, and I have case law on that. Now, the third one, let me think. Oh, the third one, he's so screwed up. When a handicapped person says to you, "I need a reasonable accommodation," there is in the law, and I'm paraphrasing this. I don't know what the exact term is, but there's what's called a rebuttable presumption. The presumption is they're handicapped. They wouldn't be saying this if they weren't handicapped. Now, they may not look it. If they have no arms, they have no legs, and you say, oh, they're not handicapped, you're not going to go anywhere except to jail as an attorney. But there's a lot of people like me and others, and hopefully you'll see this about me. I have my arms, fingers, my legs. If I'm sitting in a chair, people may say, well, goddamn, he's ugly, and he appears to be stupid, but there's nothing that indicates that I'm handicapped. So it's rebuttable that if some person says I'm handicapped, then the opposing person that is supposed to provide the accommodation has to presume that they're handicapped. That's the law. But the person receiving the request has the right under ADA law to say, okay, I'd like to see, please, that the reasonable accommodation is related to your handicap. If it's not, you're going to be fucked. You lose. You lose. So if you say, I need, I'm making this shit up now. If you need a staircase and you have no legs, that's prima facie evidence that you're handicapped. So again, if you're mentally ill, you have to be able to link the mental illness to the accommodation request. You just can't walk around and go, oh, the whole world, accommodate me, accommodate, I need this. You can't go into Walmart and say, you need to discount my food for rice, whatever. The principle is the opposing opponent can say, could you verify that your request is related to the request of the handicap, that your condition is related? Well, Jordan didn't know that. I'm telling you, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He didn't know that. He could have challenged me. He could have text me, written by mail. Smoke. You young people don't know how the Native Americans, Indians used to have smoke clouds for communication. But anyway, he didn't. And that's a separate violation of ADA law. He's mandated to call me, write me, contact me. And at that time, he could have said, well, David, we'd like to accommodate you. Can you tell me either what your handicap is? I don't have to do that. That's against the law. But he can say, can you tell us how your accommodation request is related to your mental or physical condition? He could have done that if he was smart. If he really knew ADA law, that's what he should have done. But he didn't. And now the 30-day time period is gone, and the summary judgment is basically based upon him not even contacting me, not calling, ignoring me. See, stonewalling is the basis of the Mormon Church's defense in law. It's not calling, it's not working, it's not negotiation, it's nothing about Christ. It's just, we're in charge, we're arrogant, we're going to be capricious and arbitrary. And that's what he did. Well, he didn't know. He fucked the Mormon Church up. I put in for $1 million. If I get $1, be damn surprised. It won't even pay for the paper that I put the motion on. But anyway, he does not understand that he could have challenged my disability to say, well, gee, is this, if I have no legs, and then I say, oh, I want my name removed from the Mormon church, they can say, no, fuck, we're not going to remove your name from the church. You have no legs, and it's not related. And so the same thing with the staircase. I need a reasonable accommodation. I don't want to climb up your staircase. And they go, well, reasonable. See, it has to be reasonable. They say, well, you've got legs and you walked in the building here. Why can't you walk up? We're going to refuse your accommodation. That's legal. They can refuse the accommodation. Now, the other thing that he doesn't understand is he thought when he put his motion in to dismiss on jurisdictional grounds, saying we're exempt, we're exempt, we're exempt, that he didn't have to respond to my handicapped request. Again, he didn't do his homework. He's a bozo. He's an idiot. It doesn't change. Even if the court says, basically, you're exempt, the handicapped request, he had to respond to it in the mandated part of the ADA law. He doesn't know that. Well, he's going to find that out, but the court may side with him anyway. But the law is that he should have, within 30 days is the outer limit. 14 days is the inner circle of time period where he should have called and said, gee, David, is your handicap related to what you're requiring and requesting? Well, he didn't do that. He stonewalled, and I think that's going to come back and bite him on the ass. So basically, that's the update on what's going on with the lawsuit. He put a memorandum in. The last piece is his memorandum opposing the summary judgment. I'm going to compose here in the next 2 days, and he'll know that because my videos go to his office. They go to the 12 apostles. They go everywhere, and I have no reason to be non-transparent. I'm just being honest. In the next 2, 3, 4 days, I'll put together a supplementary memorandum, including all of the information that I'm giving you. So anyway, that's the update. That's where the lawsuit is. You got my patriarchal blessing proving they didn't take my name off the records of the church. They lied. They stonewall. This is not even close to Jesus Christ and his principles. This is the most evil, satanic, great, and abominable organization and church feeding the rich white men in Utah and taking advantage of all the third world countries in the world and leaving children and families hungry, uneducated, without dental, food, medication. So anyway, long video, but I needed to get this out because I was sitting in my chair and a little voice comes to me and go, try Social Security. Oh, try IRS. Ooh, okay. Thank you.